Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, the secret engine humming away inside Windows 11. And spoiler alert, it's Linux. So, you're probably looking at your Windows 11 machine right now, right? That slick, polished interface. But what if I told you that underneath all of that, there's something else running? Something you would never, ever expect. Yep, you heard me. Windows 11 is secretly running Linux. So, how on earth did this even happen? Well, it's not some big secret plot. It's actually pretty simple. For years, the people who build all our software, developers, were screaming for one thing. They needed the power of the Linux command line, but they wanted to stay on Windows. And in a pretty shocking move, Microsoft actually listened. Okay, so that brings us to the tech that makes this all possible. Let's talk about what the WSL really is. This is the engine explained. So WSL stands for Windows Subsystem for Linux. At its core, you can think of it like a super smart translator. It lets actual Linux programs run right on Windows, no fuss, no changes needed. And let me tell you, this was a huge, huge deal when it first came out. But it gets even better. Windows 11 now uses what's called WSL2, and this is the absolute game changer. It ships with a real, honest-to-goodness Linux kernel. We're talking the heart and soul of the operating system. This isn't some fake-out or a simulation, it's the real deal, which means you get insane performance and near-perfect compatibility. Now, if you've ever tried running one OS inside another, you've probably used a virtual machine, or a VM. And you know they can be, well, clunky. A VM has to boot up an entire separate operating system, which is slow and eats up your computer's memory. WSL2 is the exact opposite. It's super lightweight, starts up in a flash, and because it's built right into Windows, it's way, way more efficient. All right, we've covered the how. Now for the fun part. What can you actually do with all this power? Let's dive into the tools you now have at your fingertips. And you're not just stuck with one version of Linux. You can hop into the Microsoft Store and grab some of the biggest names out there. You've got Ubuntu, which is kind of the go-to for most developers. There's Debian, famous for being rock solid. And you can even install Kali Linux, which is the essential toolkit for anyone in cybersecurity. And getting it all set up, it is ridiculously easy. Seriously, forget about complicated installs. You just pop open the Microsoft Store, search for Ubuntu or whatever you want, and hit install. That's it. You're done. So what do you get once it's installed? Well, the whole package. You get the full Bash terminal, that powerful command line you've heard so much about. Even better, your files are totally integrated. You can just browse your Windows C drive from inside Linux and vice versa. And maybe the coolest part, you can run Linux apps with a graphical user interface right on your Windows desktop. And when we say you can run graphical apps, we are not talking about some laggy, slow-motion mess. Windows 11 gives these Linux apps full access to your GPU. That means if you're doing heavy-duty stuff like machine learning, data science, or even design work, those programs can use the full power of your graphics card. It is incredibly fast. Okay, the tech is cool, for sure. But what's the big picture here? Why does this actually matter? Let's look at the real-world impact this is having. It really boils down to this simple idea. You get all the raw power of the Linux ecosystem, but with the comfortable, familiar experience of Windows. All on one computer, no need to dual boot or switch machines. It's the best of both worlds. So who is this for? Well, pretty much everyone in the tech world. For developers and DevOps folks, it means you can run tools like Docker and containers natively. For cybersecurity experts, you've got your whole toolkit, like Nmap and Metasploit, ready to go. And if you're just learning, it's the perfect safe sandbox to play around with Linux without worrying about breaking your main computer. For all of these people, developers, students, security pros, this isn't just some nice little feature. It completely changes their workflow. It smooths everything out, gets rid of annoying workarounds, and just makes building, testing, and learning way, way more efficient. And this whole thing, it points to something much bigger happening in the world of computing. So, what's next? Where is this hybrid future taking us? You see, what's happening here isn't just a new feature being added to Windows. It's a fundamental shift in philosophy. The old wars between operating systems, they're starting to feel a little outdated. We're seeing two giants, Windows and Linux, actually evolving together. Now look, is it absolutely perfect right now? Nah, not quite. There are still a few rough edges, some things that don't play perfectly together. But honestly, that's not the point. The direction is crystal clear. We're watching a more unified, more powerful platform being born right before our eyes. And that just leaves us with this one big, fascinating question. As these two worlds keep merging, are we watching the very idea of a separate operating system just fade away? Is that line in the sand finally starting to disappear?